Have you ever had that feeling, late at night when the world is too quiet, that something isn't quite right? That the reality around you feels thin, like a stage set painted on canvas, or a dream that's about to end? We usually brush that feeling aside. We call it fatigue. We call it paranoia. But for Dr. Anna Reid, that feeling wasn't a trick of the mind. It was a mathematical certainty. And on a cold Tuesday in November, she didn't just find a glitch in the universe. She found the delete button, and the timer was already counting down. Part 1. The Discovery. The air in the quantum research lab always tasted the same at 3 in the morning. It was a dry, metallic mix of ozone, overheated server coolants, and stale coffee that had gone cold hours ago. It was a silence that wasn't really silent, a labyrinth of humming processors and the soft, rhythmic clicking of cooling fans that sounded like the heartbeat of some sleeping giant. In the center of this technological cathedral sat Anna. She was in her 30s, but tonight, the deep lines etched into her forehead made her look decades older, worn down by a mind that refused to idle. Her lab coat was frayed at the cuffs, her dark hair pulling loose from a messy bun, framing a face that was usually lit by the spark of intellectual hunger. But tonight, that spark was gone. In its place was a hollow, terrifying clarity. She stared at the large, transparent screen hovering before her. To anyone else, it was a chaos of data, swirling nebulas, dark energy readings, quantum entanglement probabilities. To Anna, it was a death sentence written in math. Her hand hovered over the keyboard, frozen, not out of hesitation, but out of a paralysis that comes when you realize the ground beneath your feet isn't ground at all. "Anna?" The voice was soft, breaking the trance. Dr. Elijah Vance, her mentor, shuffled into the room. He was a man who wore his 60 years with a distinguished, weary grace, holding 2 fresh cups of coffee like peace offerings in a war zone. "Still here?" he asked gently. "It's past 3. Anna didn't turn. She couldn't. If she looked away from the simulation, she was afraid the reality of it might snap her in two. Elijah set a cup down on the desk, right next to a forgotten stack of journals. He tried to inject a little levity into the heavy air. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, "or solved the universe. Which, knowing you, could be the same thing." Anna finally blinked. It was a slow, painful movement, like waking up from a nightmare only to find you're still in it. She turned to him, her face drained of blood, and whispered, "Worse, Elijah. Much, much worse." Elijah's smile faltered. He stepped closer, the concern seeping into his posture. "What is it? The dark energy readouts again? The neutrino anomalies? Anna, we've been chasing those ghosts for years." "Not ghosts," she said, her voice trembling. "Code." The word hung in the air, heavier than it had any right to be. Elijah went still. "It's a simulation," Anna continued, the words tumbling out now, barely a whisper. "The holographic principle. I found the edge cases, the rendering errors, the fundamental constants of our universe. Elijah, they aren't just fine-tuned for life, they're hard-coded." She stood up suddenly, frantic, pointing at the screen. Look at this." She tapped a command, and a section of the holographic display flickered. It wasn't a natural fluctuation. It was a glitch. An incomprehensible string of symbols and numbers flashed in and out of existence, tearing through the fabric of the simulated cosmos. "The cosmic microwave background radiation," she said, her voice rising in pitch. "It's not uniform. There are artifacts, compression artifacts, like a low-quality video file, and the vacuum decay data. It's not a threat, Elijah. It's a timer." Elijah leaned in, his eyes darting across the data she was highlighting. He was a man of science. He had spent a lifetime debunking the impossible. But as he traced the lines of code hidden within the physics, his expression shifted. Skepticism melted into a dawning, terrible horror. He saw it, the structure, the artificiality. "My God," he breathed, the sound barely audible over the hum of the servers. "The simulation hypothesis, you've actually proven it." Anna looked at him, her eyes wide and wet. "And the programmers," she said, "they're about to hit delete." Part 2. The burden. The weeks that followed were a blur of motion and caffeine. Time seemed to compress, days bleeding into nights. Anna's apartment ceased to be a home. It became an extension of the lab, filled with scattered notes, half-eaten energy bars, and the blue glow of holographic projections. She worked with a feverish intensity. She was a woman possessed, a running on adrenaline and the sheer terror of what she knew. Elijah was there, always in the periphery, bringing food she forgot to eat, cross-referencing data with a look of awe and sadness in his eyes. He watched her transform from a curious scientist into a desperate guardian of reality. The projections filled the room with abstract cosmic patterns, cascading streams of data, and flickering quantum states that looked less like physics and more like a crumbling operating system. When they finally presented the findings to a hand-picked circle of the world's top minds, the room in the secured facility felt airtight with tension. The reaction was exactly what Anna feared. There was scorn. There was anger. One brilliant astrophysicist stormed out, calling it a perverse joke. Another simply put his head in his hands and wept. But slowly, the math won. The truth, no matter how jagged, could not be ignored. A week later, the group had thinned, but those who remained were grim-faced believers. Among them was Dr. Aaron Kane. He was brilliant, cynical, and had a reputation for tearing weak theories to shreds. Now, he looked defeated. "So," Aaron said, breaking the silence of the conference room, "to summarize, we are living in a hyper-advanced video game. Our Big Bang was a boot-up sequence, our lives are lines of code, and our universe is a temporary sandbox." "More than that," Anna corrected him, her voice steady now. "I've extrapolated the decay rate. The vacuum catastrophe isn't a random event. It's a scheduled system flush. A countdown." She gestured to a new projection in the center of the table. It was a timer, flashing in jagged red numbers. "Less than a year," she said. 352 days, subjective time. Then, nothing. A reset. Or oblivion. The silence that followed was suffocating. "But why?" one of the scientists asked, her voice small. "Why create us? For what purpose?" "We don't know the why," Anna admitted. "Perhaps we're an experiment, perhaps just idle entertainment, or perhaps we're a glitch they didn't anticipate, a sentient error." Aaron let out a harsh laugh. "And what do we do? Tell the world? Unleash global panic, chaos, anarchy? For what? So people can spend a year screaming before the lights go out?" "We have a moral obligation, Aaron," Elijah interjected softly. "This is the truth." "The truth?" Aaron shot back, scathing. "The truth is we're puppets on strings." "The truth is that nothing we've ever done, loved, or fought for mattered." "What kind of truth is that?" "It's the only truth we have left," Anna said, cutting through the despair. "And maybe, just maybe, if we understand our nature, we can find a way to communicate, to reason with our creators, or, at the very least, understand our final moments." Aaron scoffed. "Communicate with beings who see us as data points? We're not getting an audience, Anna. We're getting deleted." Part 3. The signal. The debate raged for hours, but Anna had already withdrawn into herself. She wasn't listening to the arguments anymore. Her mind was racing, connecting dots that shouldn't connect. She believed there was a solution. Not a way out, perhaps, but a way up. Back in the lab, late one night, the atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't about observation anymore. It was about creation. Anna was building something. Elijah watched her manipulate the interface of a new device, a complex assembly of quantum resonators. "You're trying to send a message," he noted, "across the simulation boundary?" Anna didn't look up. "If our reality is holographic, Elijah, then information is everything. If I can create a perturbation, a significant enough anomaly in the fundamental code, perhaps I can get their attention, not as a simulation, but as a consciousness." "And if you succeed?" Elijah asked. What do you say? Please don't turn us off? I don't know, Anna whispered, but I have to try. To just accept this fate. It goes against everything it means to be alive, to be human. Even if we're just code, we feel, we think. That has to mean something. And if you fail? Elijah asked, his voice heavy with the question they were all afraid to ask. If you accelerate the decay? Anna froze. Her hand hovered over the circuit board. She turned to him, and for the first time, he saw the raw fear she had been hiding. Then we were always doomed, she said, but at least we died trying to understand. 3 months later, the lab had become a hive of desperate, frantic activity. The red countdown timer was now a permanent fixture on the wall, showing 260 days. The device, Anna called it the cosmic amplifier, was massive now, an intricate beast of coils and crystals that hummed with a deep, bone-rattling frequency. Aaron, wiping sweat from his brow, looked at the schematics. The energy requirements are astronomical, Anna. We're siphoning power from half the continent. If this thing goes live, it'll trigger blackouts everywhere. Blackouts are preferable to oblivion, Aaron, Anna snapped, adjusting a delicate crystal array. This signal needs to be louder than anything this simulation has ever produced. It needs to be an intentional error, something they can't ignore. What is the message exactly? Another scientist asked. You've been so secretive. Anna took a deep breath. She keyed a command, and a complex sequence appeared on the screen. It wasn't text. It was a weave of mathematics, fractals, ancient human symbols, and musical notation. It's a message of complexity, she explained, of emergent consciousness. It details the journey of our universe, our evolution, our capacity for wonder, for love, for suffering. It asks for understanding. It asks for an explanation. Elijah stared at the screen, reading the data. A plea, he said quietly. Part 4. The confrontation. But the world outside wasn't asleep. Deep in a government bunker, General Margaret Chen stared at a report that made no sense. Energy drains, quantum fluctuations, unauthorized activity. Dr. Reid's operation is now a national security threat, she told her advisors, her voice steel. I want to know exactly what she's doing, and if it poses a risk to global stability, shut it down. The night of the activation, the air in the lab crackled with static electricity. The cosmic amplifier glowed with a faint, eerie luminescence. Power up the primary resonators, Anna commanded. Stabilize the quantum field. We have one shot at this. Just as the hum began to rise, the alarms shattered the concentration. Red lights strobed across the walls. We have company, Aaron shouted. Military! They're breaching the perimeter! Doors burst open. General Chen marched in, flanked by a squad of armed soldiers. Dr. Reid, stand down! What is this madness? You are destabilizing the entire power grid! Anna spun around, defiant. General, you don't understand. This isn't destabilization. This is our only hope. Your hope is chaos, Chen yelled. My orders are to shut this down immediately. The soldiers moved toward the equipment. Elijah stepped in front of Anna, spreading his arms. General, please, this is beyond military protocol. This is about the very nature of our existence. And I am responsible for maintaining order, Doctor, Chen barked. That is my reality. Anna looked past the guns. They passed the shouting. She saw the soldiers closing in on the power conduits. She checked the holographic display. The vacuum decay signature was spiking. The timer wasn't counting down days anymore. It was destabilizing. Aaron, now! She screamed. Override their security! Give me full power! Aaron hesitated for a fraction of a second, looked at the soldiers, and then typed furiously. The lab's internal lights flickered and died as every ounce of power was diverted to the amplifier. Stop them, Chen ordered. Chaos erupted. Soldiers grappled with the scientists. It was a brawl of desperation, but Anna was focused. She ignored the shouting, her fingers flying across her console. The amplifier began to scream, pulsating with a blinding light. On the display, the countdown timer blazed. 15 seconds. 14. 13. And the vacuum decay. It's accelerating, Anna shouted over the din. They're already hitting the delete button. We have to send the message now. General Chen looked at the timer. She looked at the frantic Anna. She looked at the pulsating machine that seemed to be warping the air around it. For a split second, the certainty of her orders cracked. She saw the terror in Anna's eyes, not the terror of a criminal, but the terror of someone watching the sky fall. She's right, Aaron yelled. The decay signature just spiked. They're initiating the flush. Power to maximum, Anna cried out. Send the message. With a final, desperate push, Anna slammed her hand down on the large red activator. Part 5. The Response. There was a deafening crack, like the universe snapping a bone. The cosmic amplifier erupted. It didn't just glow. It became a star. A blinding, pure white light washed over the room, arcing wildly, sizzling through the electronics. The alarms wailed and then were silenced by the sheer intensity of the energy. The soldiers were thrown back. General Chen shielded her eyes against the glare. The light built and built, reaching an intensity that felt like it would strip the flesh from their bones. And then, silence. Absolute, ringing silence. The light faded, retreating back into the shadows. The lab was a ruin. The amplifier was shattered, smoking, a melted heap of expensive junk. Anna, Elijah, Aaron, and the scientists were slumped on the floor. They were dazed, gasping for air, but unharmed. The soldiers were picking themselves up, looking around in confusion. Slowly, eyes turned to the main holographic display. The red countdown timer was gone. In its place was a single, stark image, a perfect, luminous white sphere pulsating gently in the center of the void. And next to it, a single symbol. It wasn't human. It wasn't a number. It wasn't a letter. It was elegant, fluid, and resonated with a meaning that bypassed the eyes and went straight to the gut. It looked like a question mark, but it felt like a nod, an acknowledgement. They, Elijah whispered, his voice trembling. They saw it. Aaron stared at the symbol, his cynicism washed away by pure bewilderment. What does it mean? Anna pulled herself up using the edge of the console. Her body ached, but her eyes were locked on that symbol. A tear rolled down her cheek, a mixture of exhaustion, lingering terror, and a fragile, blooming hope. It means... They heard us, she said. It means we exist. General Chen walked slowly toward the display. Her gun was lowered. The stern mask of the commander had melted away, leaving just a person staring into the abyss. So, she asked, her voice quiet. What now? Anna turned to her. A faint, weary smile played on her lips. Now. We wait. We just sent a message into the void, General. We told them we're here. And they responded. We've changed the game. Conclusion. Months later, the world kept turning. Viewed from space, Earth was a marble of swirling clouds and shimmering oceans, oblivious to how close it had come to vanishing. In the lab, the repairs were nearly complete. The shattered remains of the amplifier had been cleared away, replaced by new, more refined equipment. But on the main display, the white sphere and the alien symbol remained, a constant, silent vigil. Anna was working again, but the frantic energy was gone. She moved with a newfound calm. Elijah sat beside her, watching the data streams. No further messages, he observed. No delete button pressed, just silence. For now, Anna said. They know we're here. We sent a ripple through their code. It changed something. It bought us time. Maybe they're trying to figure out what to do with us. A sentient error. And humanity? Elijah asked, looking at her. Do we tell them? Anna looked up at the projection. She thought of the people outside, the families having dinner, the arguments, the laughter, the mundane beauty of 1 billion lives living in ignorance. She thought of the chaos that the truth would bring. Not yet, she decided. Not until we understand the response. Not until we have something more than just a plea. For now, let them live in their beautifully rendered illusion. It's better that way. And when they do find out? Elijah asked. Anna turned to him, and her eyes held a wisdom that felt older than the universe itself. "Then we will tell them that our existence isn't just an accident," she said. "We'll tell them it's a miracle, and that even in a simulated universe, our choices, our love, our striving, they are undeniably real." She looked back at the symbol, the silent conversation continuing across dimensions. And perhaps that is enough.